When you want to write your methodology section, passive voice is preferred. Okay, most of the time, not always, most of the time we use passive form, passive voice. Do you know why? Because everyone knows that you did the procedure, you did the process. You actually went to the laboratory and did the research. I mean, you conducted the research, you collected data, you analyzed data. This means that all people know that you are the doer of this action or these actions. So there is no need to emphasize you. I mean, there is no need to emphasize that you are the actor, you are the doer. So the actions are more important than you yourself. And that's why we use passive voice, okay? But there is a difference between proposals and other types of research. I mean, proposal versus thesis and dissertation or paper. On the one hand, we have proposal. On the other, we have theses, dissertations, and papers. In proposals, most often we use actually future tense. Passive voice, future tense. Because we are talking about our plans for future. Okay, we are proposing to do something in future. We are pre-planning. But in thesis, dissertation, and paper, we are talking about what happened in the past. Okay, since all things happened in the past, so we have to use past tense. And in both cases, both in proposals and thesis, dissertations, and papers, we have to use, or better to say, we are recommended to use passive voice because researchers are not important. The actions are more important. Okay. Let's look at examples here, cliches and examples. The data were normalized using something here. Then it's better to use passive voice. Since it is in past tense, this means that this is taken from a paper, thesis, or dissertation, not from a proposal. Descriptive data were generated for all variables. This means that we use passive voice. The procedures of this study were approved by, as you see here, we have passive voice, past tense. This means that this is taken from a paper, thesis, or dissertation, not from a proposal. Data for this study were retrospectively collected from, as you see here, passive voice, past tense. Prompts were used as an aid to question 2, so that, as you see, you can fill in the blanks, and then you can use the cliches here. The experiments were run using custom software written in, as you see, past tense. This means that the experiments are more important than me, more important than us as researchers. 2 sets of anonymized questionnaires were completed. Okay, here we have passive voice, past tense. The solution was washed 3 times with deionized water. A total of 256 samples were taken from 52. The mean score for the 2 trials was subjected to multivariate analysis of variance to determine, and you can tell the reason why you did that. Okay. Some other examples. The pilot interviews were conducted informally by the trained interviewers. As you see here, the underlined part is the passive verb. Blood samples were obtained with consent from 256 male patients. This means that we asked them and they voluntarily let us actually take samples. Independent tests were carried out on the X and Y scores, for example, mathematics and physics scores, for the 4 years from the starting point and you can continue the sentence. This experiment was repeated under conditions in which the poor signal noise ratio was improved. Article references were searched further for additional relevant publications. Here we have some other cases, some other cliches. Significance levels were set at the 1% level using the student t-test, or actually sample t-test. Data management and analysis were performed using SPSS 16. As you see, published studies were identified using a search strategy developed in, you can finish the sentence using some phrases and words. The experiments were carried out over the course of the growing period from, as you see, you can finish the sentence as you wish. Injection solutions were coded by a colleague to reduce experimenter bias. As you see here, the action and the reason to do that action. Okay, we have logic most of the time in these sentences, in the actions. Okay, we do something throughout the research process, and we should have a logic behind doing that action. Every single action should be of a reliable, convincing logic behind. Drugs were administered by ICV injection under brief CO2 narcosis. The subjects were asked to pay close attention to the characters whenever, as you see, you can finish the sentence. As I said, we can use past tense. That's no problem, whether we are writing our proposal, thesis, dissertation, or paper. But in case of proposals, we use future tense because we are talking about our plans for future. But in case of theses, dissertations, and papers, we have to use past tense because we are talking about what happened in the past. In both cases, we can use, or better say, we must use passive voice because the actions we did are much more important than ourselves, we ourselves. The actions are much more important than the researchers of the research, of that process, much more important than you as a researcher. Okay, that is the difference between proposal, thesis and dissertation, and paper, and the important point, passive voice is preferred.